Okay, so today we're going to continue reading Ma Dear's Aprons. And so we read Monday and Tuesday, and we kind of read a little bit about David Earl and how he really has to help his mom and doesn't get to do what he wants to do all the time. So let's find out what the rest of their week is like. After breakfast on Wednesday, Ma Dear ties on her green apron with hidden pocket. The treasure pocket, David Earl calls it. The boy helps his mother hitch their wagon to Gracious. They load the baskets and then set off across the railroad tracks to the other side of Avery where all the rich people live. Ma Dear lets David Earl hold the reins, but Gracious knows the way. His mother rides looking straight ahead and has told David Earl to do the same. But as they pass, he can't help sneaking a peek at the big chandelier inside the Grand View Opera House. Why do you think she makes him look straight ahead? Yeah, so people don't feel like they're being threatened because they're colored people. The mayor stops in front of a large mansion on the corner of Main and Tucker Streets. David Earl stands quietly beside Mama Dear at the basement door while Miss Heelbach carefully checks the laundry. "Your work is good," the woman says flatly, placing a quarter in Mama Dear's hand. Then casting her eyes down to David Earl, "You may have a peach off my tree if you want one." The boy stands erect and lifts his head proudly the way Mom Dear says his daddy did. "No, thank you," he answers. On the way home, Ma Dear makes her usual stop at Hanson's General Store where she buys a few staples and one treat. That evening, after David Earl has finished helping with the dinner dishes, she reaches inside her apron. "Look what I found," she says, pulling a penny peppermint stick from the treasure pocket. So why do we think he calls it the treasure pocket? Yeah, because it's got a special place, or it's got special treats in it on Wednesdays. On Thursday, when the southbound passenger train rumbles through Avery on its way to Huntsville, David Earl knows it's Thursday. And when the sun tops the big spruce like a silver ball, he knows it's noon. Come noon Thursday, Ma Dear puts on a cheerful pink apron, and they go to visit the sick and shut-in. But first, Ma Dear and David Earl feed the hens and chicks and gather eggs. Then they pick a dozen ripe red tomatoes, some okra, and a couple of cucumbers from their garden. "We're going to take these to Madame Pearlie," Mama Dear says. David Earl's happy because Madame Pearlie is so interesting. She was once a famous singer who performed concerts on 3 continents. All she has left now are her piano, her photo albums, and lots of memories. "Madame Pearlie, did you really sing for the Queen of England?" the boys ask when they get there. The proud and dignified woman slides to the piano stool. Her fingers know how to find the right keys. "The Queen herself requested that I sing a spiritual. She remembers. They tell me she had tears in her eyes when I finished Deep River." David Earl imagines he is in a huge concert hall filled with 3 chandeliers as big as no bigger than the one in Grand View Opera House. Queen Victoria is seated in her box. Madame Pearlie bows gracefully and begins a high, clear voice. "Deep River, Lord, my home is over Jordan. Oh, Deep River, Lord, I want to cross over into campground." The music stays in David Earl's head the rest of the day, and that night, just before he falls asleep, he hears Ma Dear humming the same melody as she sews by candlelight. Friday. "Oh no, it's Friday again," says David Earl when he sees Ma Dear tie on her brown apron. "Brown, so it won't show dirt," she explains. On Fridays, Ma Dear cleans house for the Alexander family over in Mission, about 5 miles from Avery. David Earl has to go along. "You're too young to stay home by yourself," she says, "so don't even ask." Alton Montgomery gets to stay home alone. Alton Montgomery's not my son. "But finish your breakfast so we can go." "But no more buts," Ma Dear says in her no-nonsense voice. "And stop whining." David Earl eats his oatmeal in silence. What do you think her no-nonsense voice means? Yeah, like she's not playing. You hush it and you eat. Once they got to the Alexanders, Ma Dear is not so angry anymore. The house is big, but not nearly as grand as the Hickenbach mansion. Ma Dear says the Alexanders are expecting to be rich people, but they're not rich yet. Miss Alexander leaves a long list of things for Ma Dear to do. While she works, Ma Dear teaches David Earl a new song. Inch along, like a poor inch worm. She covers her face with a handkerchief. Then she covers her own with her apron. They beat the rug, shovel the ashes out of the fireplace, and scrub floors. What do you think it means they're expecting to be rich people? Yeah, like they're not rich yet, but people think they're gonna be rich. I don't know how that works, but okay. When they stop for lunch, Ma Dear takes a piece of string from her apron pocket. She makes Jacob's ladder, a crow's foot, and a cup and a saucer. David Earl tries to make the string designs, but they won't come out right. Back at work, Ma Dear goes upstairs. She changes the beds, dusts, and sweeps every room. Meanwhile, David Earl pretends he's an inchworm as he pulls weeds from Miss Alexander's flower garden, slowly moving down each row of blooms. At sunset on the way home, David Earl keeps trying to make the string designs. With a little help, he makes Jacob's ladder. "I did it," he says, and does it again and again. Saturday. On Saturday, Ma Dear bakes pies. Wearing her flowered apron, she and David Earl gather apples out back, and Ma Dear can peel a whole apple without breaking the skin. "Throw it over your shoulder," she says, "and it will form the first letter of your name of someone who loves you." David Earl does, and like magic, the peeling forms the letter J. Mama Dear winks her eye. "See, I told you." Mama's dear's name is Jonelle. When the pies are all baked and cooled, Gracious pulls Ma Dear and David Earl to the train station where passengers buy every last one. At home, Ma Dear puts a coin in a small container on the top shelf of the cabinet. "For your schooling, come next year," she says. Then it's bath time, and Ma Dear puts an over-the-head gray apron. She pours hot water into a round tin tub. David Earl flaps his arms, splashing water everywhere. "Look, I'm a big fish." "You're a big mess," Mama Dear says. "Just look at my floor." She pours in some more hot water and gives him a good scrubbing from head to toe. "Are you going to hang me out to dry like a sheep?" "I should," she says, "but instead, I'm going to tickle your toes until you say, 'Jack, wick, whack, stick, ball, smack, tick, tack, mick, mack, skip, scat, jack.'" Between giggles, David Earl tries to repeat the tongue twister, but he can't say it fast enough. I give up, he cries. Mama Dear dries him and herself with the big gray apron. "Come on, have a slice of apple pie." Sunday. A church bell rings in the distance. That's how David Earl knows it's Sunday. Ma Dear has a week of workday aprons and one for every chore, but she never wears an apron on Sunday. "This is your no work day," says David Earl, pulling on his pants. Soon as he put on his one pair of shoes, Ma Dear brushes his hair. "After service, why don't we take our supper down to Sutter Mills Creek? Can I fish?" "If you fish on Sunday, you'll catch the devil," Mama says. David Earl glances up at the flag and sword over the mantel and smiles. "Did Paul fish on Sunday?" he asks as they run out the door. So let's talk about why Mama Dear doesn't work on Sundays. Why do you think she doesn't work on Sundays? So on Sundays is what they say is the day of rest. And especially back in the day, there were not restaurants open, gas stations open, stores open. Like nobody worked on Sundays. It was a day of rest. You eat, you sit, you rest. And so that's why Mama Dear didn't have an apron for Sunday, because it was her day of rest. Let's talk about the author's purpose. So we kind of talked about the purpose of writing a fiction story is to entertain me. So he basically wrote this story to entertain me. But let's talk about the author's message. Message meaning theme, moral, lesson. What did the message of this story, what could the message be from these characters? One that comes to mind is like there are different kinds of families. Think about the difference in the families that Mama Dear worked for in her and David Earl's family. Working together can make hard work more pleasant. And I really like that message in the story because think about all the hard work that Mama Dear and David Earl did, but they always found fun in it, and they did it together, and it made it not so bad. So I think that was a big message in this story. And one more it says on here is, life in the past was different from today. Life was hard, and sometimes we think it's hard, but it's not near as hard as it used to be.